What are some common signs that someone grew up with SHD parents? When they think they always cause problems for others, and when they are emotionally and socially closed off, so it's very hard for them to be more sociable, etc. Edit. Thanks for the awards and making my day better, lol. That ever-present feeling of being a burden and having done something wrong gets you. I'd never known how I felt until you put into words. Thanks, man. They tell traumatized stories and think they are happy memories. Edit. Wow, I did not expect this to hit so hard with so many people. Thanks for the awards. 20 years of child abuse and neglect, and I can only think of one or two stories that are genuinely funny. It's not a great feeling, and I feel out of my league when people recant happy family stories from their childhood. And in the back of my mind, why couldn't I have that? They are always trying to figure out what they did wrong and what they're supposed to be doing and how, while editing their own thoughts and feeling vaguely bad. I always felt like every little mistake was my fault and I should apologize for being such a bad person. I wasn't a bad person, I was just a child being a child. Make a mistake around my mom. In public it was the look, even my teachers saw the look and knew. She freaking knew and did nothing when I cowered. Over something small and stupid. At home it was full on hitting, screaming, getting in my face, destroying things. To my mom, I'm this awful person who doesn't deserve to be treated nicely. Everything bad I did, accident or not, was just to hurt her. Get sick, doing it to hurt her, forget something, I 100% did it on purpose to hurt her. It would end in her hitting, screaming, got pinned to a wall and screamed in my face quite a few times, thrown out. All over insignificant things. I was a normal kid, I pushed normal boundaries, I never did anything truly horrible, just typical kid stuff. Nope, I was the worst child to ever exist. Even as an adult, Mum didn't stop thinking of me like that. She'd still attempt to hit me. Unfortunately for her, I was faster and got out of the way. It's freaking awful knowing you're on edge all the time, waiting to be hit even years after you escape the abuse, and you can still dodge without conscious thought. She would still scream at me like I'm a bad child needing severe discipline. I still feel like I'm a bad person. That mum would have loved me if I'd just been different, better. That feeling will never go away, even though I know it's not true. I was just a kid, reacting to a crappy situation. She got off easy when I got older. She made out I was the worst kid teen ever. I wasn't. I know I wasn't. I still feel like I'm a bad person. That mum would have loved me if I'd just been different, better. That feeling will never go away, even though I know it's not true. That feeling can go away. This book was a good start for me. Goodreads.com. Control freak. They grew up in chaos, alcoholism, gambling, foreclosure, and are obsessed with averting some unforeseen disaster. They're completely unwilling to open up and share anything because in their experience it will always be used against them. For me, I have the opposite problem. No boundaries about what to share. I can never tell how close I am with someone, and I am comfortable basically telling anyone anything. But I think it comes off as weird and a turn-off to people, like a red flag. I just want to connect emotionally with people so desperately, it is like I will do it with anyone who will converse with me. For me, I am a bit of both. I would share way too much at the beginning, and once I feel that connection with them, I would immediately close up. Deep down inside, I feel insecure about sharing with closed people. Doesn't talk about their interests because parents have never showed interest, belittled them. Whoa. Yeah, I guess I'm just realizing this. My stepdad would constantly make fun of anything I liked, for example music, movies, even the type of orange juice I preferred. Now, I don't mention my interests to people because I'm afraid of being embarrassed. Edit. To add, a few people are genuinely asking about my interests, and I really appreciate that. But I guarantee you're all going to make fun of me for liking the Dave Matthews Band. I also like horror movies and prefer no pulp orange juice. They don't understand simple gestures of kindness. Took my husband a long time to understand that my parents liked giving little gifts to people and doing things for them, that they weren't trying to insult him or us or make us feel incompetent, they were just showing affection. Edit. Some people are focusing on the gift part of this, while I was trying to emphasize the kindness. Like, my dad, or brothers, offering to help or keep company when he mentioned he had to fix the deck or paint the shed or go to the junkyard for a car part. To him the offer was insulting and suspicious. To them it was just what you do to make someone's life easier. But in his family that notion didn't exist, so he couldn't figure out why it was happening, except he didn't think it could be a good reason. I get so anxious anytime my in-laws give me anything. Especially since they're pretty well off. Or letting us borrow money for an unexpected vet or bill. Money was always used against me. I'm extremely defensive and would rather cut off my left ear than put myself in the situation I had with my parents. It's getting better over the years but still is really challenging for me. I knew a kid who'd instinctively cover his head whenever someone was behind him, and he'd refuse to sit or stand anywhere that didn't have his back to a wall. His older siblings beat him up regularly. He'd frequently be coming to school with fresh bruises, and when a girl tried to comfort him he thought she was just trying to lure him into a trap and hit her, which got him expelled. And growing up I'd see him around town. He dropped out of school completely and got into drugs. His parents never gave a shit. Never. Not ducking once. He had nothing because his older brothers would steal and destroy anything he ever owned, even his clothes, so he'd wear the same thing for weeks on end. Is it any surprise that he's been in and out of prison all his adult life? Parental apathy is fucking shit. And to add a cherry on top? His abusive older brothers went on to live pretty happy, fulfilling lives, but the little brother they tortured and abused for years became the societal and family outcast. That's really heartbreaking. People who try way too hard to please, and are terrified to put themselves first. This is the saddest trait because it's the easiest for fresh predators to take advantage of when the parents are out of the picture. If only terrible parents knew or cared that they were grooming their kids for future abuse. Edit: putting yourself first in this context does not mean being selfish or narcissistic. It means having the capacity to set healthy boundaries. It means understanding that your opinions have merit, that your emotions matter, that you should have complete bodily autonomy, and that you shouldn't fear the wrath of Zeus if you say no. Also, it means that you should never have to do anything you're uncomfortable with to earn someone's love. I feel this. Entire childhood spent pleasing others, now I feel like I've gone the complete opposite direction. I'm too harsh and bitchy. I can't seem to find a safe middle ground. They don't form attachments to others. They grew up in an environment where such attachments were negative and/or resulted in negative outcomes. Narcissistic parents are the worst. You can't beat them, so you stop playing the game. 20 years goes by with you wondering why you are alone. Then a therapist points out to you they have been shaping your relationships the whole time by shutting down your ability to value them. Dude. My therapist asked me why I felt like no one ever actually loved me, despite being a few long-term relationships over the last 20 years. I said I really couldn't pick out a boyfriend that ever made me feel that way. She said, "Anyone else?" And that's when I realized that my parents suck. See, this is where I struggle. I can have these realizations about myself, but nothing seems to change afterwards. It's just a logical, oh, yeah, this is why you're like this. But the underlying subconscious thoughts and actions don't change. Because intellectually grasping why a behavior exists and integrating how to change it are two very different things. Essentially, the only strategy that actually works for changing the behavior is acknowledging that your coping mechanisms keep you alive and that they are also hindering you from adapting to a change in your environment. Essentially, instead of fighting socially unacceptable coping mechanism X, you have to embrace thanking the immediate coping mechanism and then following that with a new strategy to manage whatever new problem that has arose. They go out of their way to please people. They can't take compliments because they're so used to being put down. They flinch if they hear someone raise their voice or at loud noises. Edit: I'm going to add in the fact that they're not good uncomfortable with conflict even if they're not directly involved, because they inevitably get dragged into the conflict when their parents are arguing. Ironically, my dad was the first person Ro realized that I apologize and flinch and even startle a lot. Didn't do or change anything to help me though. When I told my professor in graduate school that I wasn't going home for Christmas, he said, "Oh yeah, I mean, your parents can't be the best company. I've seen you apologize for being too polite." Like, yeah. A lack of self-esteem. Shows up in so many different ways. My so basically told me that I make her worry because I don't boss her around, which leaves her always wondering if I'm disappointed in her or if I feel she's not being a good girlfriend. If I boss her around and she follows my commands, then she knows she's done what she's been told and has nothing to worry about. This has become less of an issue over the years. I refuse to boss her around. I try to show appreciation instead and remind her that I love her, but she still worries she's not good enough sometimes, and I hate that. I don't blame her, but I hate it more than anything. I feel she's never been good enough for her parents, which has left her vulnerable to date guys who take advantage of that and also made her feel like she's not good enough. Edit: to all the people suggesting therapy. She would love to get legitimate therapy, we just aren't financially in a place where that's affordable. She's in an online support group though. She says it really helps, but she wishes she could do the real thing someday.